What if Meghan Markle didn't give birth to Lilibet, and the palace never addressed it on purpose? In the next few minutes, we're diving into the video that reignited a royal firestorm, a mysterious hospital timeline that doesn't add up, an Instagram post that said more than it showed, and a legal twist that could change everything about royal bloodlines. It's part mystery, part media circus, and by the end, you might find yourself questioning if privacy is just performance with better lighting. Let's begin. Number 1. The rumor that refused to die. It didn't start with a press release. It didn't start with a royal insider. It started with a YouTube comment section. In early 2025, videos began surfacing with titles like "The Surrogate Speaks Out" and "The Baby That Changed the Crown." Most were low-resolution, grainy thumbnails, dramatic music, and anonymous voices claiming to have insider knowledge. But here's the weird part. People didn't laugh them off. They watched. They shared. And then they started believing. The Meghan Markle surrogate theory had existed quietly in the corners of conspiracy forums for years. But this time, it was different. Because the moment people started pointing at real-world contradictions, the theory got traction. Suddenly, the internet was filled with screenshots of birth certificates, clips from Harry's interviews, and slowed-down videos of Meghan's baby bump shifting oddly mid-walk. TikTok sleuths acted like they were solving a true crime case. Reddit went full CSI. But what really gave the rumor oxygen was a name: Lady Colin Campbell. The former royal biographer and socialite publicly questioned Meghan's pregnancies, again, and demanded, quote, irrefutable proof. For some, it sounded out of pocket. For others, it echoed something they'd already been whispering. Especially when she emphasized the line, "Meghan is acting like someone hiding something rather than someone being unfairly accused." And then came the cherry on top. The Daily Express ran a headline that read, "Royal family refuses to comment on Lilibet's birth timeline." Just a vague, slippery sentence, but it was enough. It opened the door. The palace wasn't confirming anything, but they weren't shutting it down either. That's where things got weird. Because this wasn't just one of those throwaway tabloid stories anymore. Suddenly, influencers, vloggers, and even former royal staffers were asked in interviews whether they thought the children were really Meghan's. Some refused to answer. Some nervously laughed it off. Others, like body language experts, made entire careers off analyzing how Meghan held her stomach in old footage. It's the kind of rumor that thrives on silence. The less they say, the louder the questions get. And that's exactly what's been happening. There was no smoking gun. No tell-all. Just shadows. And people squinting really hard into them. But things were about to get even stranger. Because a resurfaced video, featuring Meghan, a hospital gown, and a dance move straight from TikTok, was about to flip the internet upside down again. Number 2. The baby mama dance that broke the internet. It wasn't leaked. It wasn't hacked. Meghan Markle posted it herself. A short, playful clip of her doing the baby mama dance in what appeared to be a hospital gown. Hair tied up, music playing, and Harry cheering her on in the background like a proud husband who also might have just had too much kombucha. To fans, it was adorable. Light-hearted. Proof that even royals get goofy when the cameras aren't supposed to be rolling. But to skeptics, this was Exhibit A. The internet didn't just watch it. It zoomed in, slowed it down, analyzed the lighting, the room, the foreplacement, even the angle of her belly. Some called it confirmation. Others called it a cover story. And like clockwork, the Reddit threads exploded. Why would she film herself dancing if she's in labor? That's not a real hospital. Look at the bump, it doesn't move. One commenter wrote, "I've seen cosplayers in more believable maternity wear." The most common reaction? Something's off. And that's the thing. It didn't matter if the clip was authentic or staged. The second it went viral, it stopped being about truth and became about perception. It gave people who already didn't believe her the perfect moment to say, "See? Told you." And it gave her supporters just enough to say, "You people are insane." But here's what really made it go nuclear: timing. The video re-emerged just days after Lady Colin Campbell's latest interview. Just days after the palace went silent again. And just days before Harry's memoir started trending again. To some, that timing felt too perfect. And the questions came rolling back in. Was this an old video? Was it edited? Was it ever supposed to be public? Some even claimed Meghan posted it strategically to distract from other headlines. Was it a flex? A peace offering? A well-placed PR move? Whatever it was, it worked. The video reignited every debate, every conspiracy, every accusation that had been cooling down. And suddenly, people were back to combing through birth records, podcast quotes, and, yes, footage of Meghan walking to analyze her bump in different lighting. But the biggest twist wasn't in the dance. It was in the timestamps. Because when you dig into the official birth records and compare them to Harry's own words, things start to get complicated. Very complicated. Number 3. The timeline that doesn't add up. Let's start with the facts, or at least what's publicly known. According to Lilibet Diana's official birth certificate, she was born at 11:40 a.m. on June 4, 2021, at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. The certificate lists Meghan as the mother, Harry as the father, and everything appears neat, tidy, and royal approved. But here's where it gets weird. In Spare, Harry describes the birth in poetic, borderline cinematic detail. Except one part doesn't quite match up. He writes that before Meghan gave birth, they made a quick detour to grab some In-N-Out burgers and fajitas, a little pre-birth cheat meal, supposedly. Now, unless Meghan is built different from every other woman in labor, we have a problem. Because most OBs will tell you, eating heavy food right before active labor, especially if you're getting an epidural or preparing for a possible emergency C-section, is kind of a no-go. But hey, maybe Meghan skipped the fries. Still, let's entertain the timeline. If Lilibet was born just before noon, that would mean they grabbed food, went to the hospital, checked in, went through the entire labor process, and delivered a baby, all before most people finish their first coffee. And while that's technically possible, it stretches the boundaries of medical reality, especially for a second child. Fans of the couple waved it off as a sweet anecdote. Harry was just telling a story. But critics? They treated it like a forensic clue. People began breaking down timestamps, hospital protocols, and even Meghan's hairstyle in the video clips to determine when she was actually in labor. It was like National Treasure, Delivery Room Edition. Some Reddit users pointed out that the hospital has strict privacy rules. No filming, no TikToks, no nonsense. So why would Meghan have a full camera setup in a maternity ward? Others speculated that the hospital room in the dance video might have been staged elsewhere. A private suite? A decoy room? A really elaborate Airbnb? But here's the deeper question. Why are people so obsessed with this timeline in the first place? Maybe it's not just about the minutes and meals. Maybe it's about control, about image, about the way truth, when left vague, becomes a playground for imagination. And the palace's next move didn't help. Because when people asked for clarification, all they got was silence. But not just any silence, the kind that makes things echo louder. And then Meghan did something unexpected. She told her side of the story. But not in a press conference, in pictures. The kind designed to say everything without saying a word. Number 4, the silence and the slideshow. When you're part of the British royal family, even adjacent to it, every sneeze, smile, and subtle shrug gets analyzed like it's a scene from a courtroom drama. So imagine what happens when you say nothing at all. That's exactly what Buckingham Palace did. While the internet was spinning out conspiracy theories, Meghan was dancing in hospital gowns, and Harry was reminiscing about fast food cravings mid-labor. The royal institution went into full ghost mode. No statements, no clarifications, not even a subtle royal eye roll. To some, that silence looked like maturity. We don't engage in nonsense, as the firm might say. But to others, that silence sounded a lot like confirmation. You see, when you don't deny something, especially something this big, you give the internet a blank canvas. And let's just say, the internet prefers spray paint over soft brushstrokes. Theories multiplied. Threads exploded. Even people who don't usually care about royals started raising an eyebrow. But just when the speculation was boiling over, Meghan posted something. Not a rebuttal. Not a leave us alone message. Something far more powerful. A photo carousel. There she was, glowing, holding her belly, staged in flattering light with perfectly chosen outfits that screamed, "Yes, this is my baby bump." It was elegant, cinematic, and just ambiguous enough to stir the pot instead of settling it. Some fans took it as a direct clapback to the rumors. Here's the proof, they cheered. She carried that baby, case closed. Others weren't buying it. Too polished, one commenter wrote. Where's the timestamp? Where's the hospital wristband? Even the framing of the photos became a point of analysis. Why this angle? Why that background? Why did it feel like a Vogue maternity shoot rather than a raw behind-the-scenes moment? And just like that, Meghan had said everything, without saying a word. The brilliance? She controlled the narrative with aesthetic. She didn't get dragged into a debate. She posted curated visuals that let people interpret what they wanted to see. To supporters, it was truth. To doubters, it was PR. But here's where it gets interesting. While the public was busy zooming in on bump angles and belly curves, royal legal experts were whispering about something else entirely, something that could shake the entire foundation of royal succession. Something about laws, legitimacy, and the one thing the royal family has always protected above everything else: the bloodline. Number 5, the royal bloodline question no one wants to touch. Let's take a step back, past the TikTok theories, past the dance videos, past the Instagram bump shots, and look at what's really at stake here. Because at the heart of all this noise, there's one word that sends a chill down Buckingham Palace's spine: succession. Now, you might think that since Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal duties, none of this really matters anymore. No titles? No throne? No problem, right? Well, not exactly. Because whether or not Meghan and Harry want their kids to be part of the firm, the royal institution still cares deeply about appearances and bloodlines. Especially when the child in question is legally a prince or princess. Which, by the way, Lilibet technically is. So here's the legal twist that's made royal historians sweat through their tweed blazers. In the United Kingdom, surrogacy is legal, but not straightforward when it comes to aristocratic or royal lineage. A child born through surrogacy may still be considered legitimate, but only if very specific documentation and court orders are in place. And even then, it gets messy. Titles, inheritance, and place in the line of succession could all, theoretically, be challenged if someone really wanted to poke at the legal foundation. Think of it as the royal version of your Wi-Fi is connected, but there's no internet. Enter Lady Colin Campbell again. She's not just repeating rumors. She's calling for official notarized proof that Meghan gave birth. On paper, that might sound extreme, but in royal circles, it's a dog whistle, because it hints that without formal confirmation, Lilibet's claim to any title could be, in theory, called into question. Of course, no one in the palace is going to say that out loud. But sources close to royal staffers have whispered that the concern isn't just about conspiracy theories. It's about precedent. If the royal family acknowledges a child born under unclear circumstances, what does that mean for future generations? For the monarchy itself? Some say that's why the palace has stayed silent. Not because they're hiding something, but because addressing it at all would legitimize the question. And yet, the legal ambiguity remains. The more people pull at it, the more complicated it becomes. Especially when you realize that under California law, surrogate contracts are often sealed. Meaning, if there was one, you'd never know. But maybe you wouldn't need to. Because in the very next section, Meghan's own words, spoken not in court, but in a podcast, might be the closest thing we ever get to the truth. Or at least her version of it. Number 6, her version of the truth. When you can't control the narrative, you curate it. That's been Meghan Markle's quiet strategy since stepping away from royal life. No more palace statements, no more Buckingham filters. Just carefully chosen moments. Carefully placed words. And lately, those words are showing up in the most modern form of royal decree, the podcast. On an episode that dropped just weeks after the baby mama dance resurfaced, Meghan spoke softly but sharply. No direct names. No drama. But one line stood out like a neon sign in the fog. A lie can only live so long before it burns itself out. And just like that, the internet lit up. Was she talking about the surrogate rumors? Was that a veiled clapback? Or just a motivational quote to put on a mug? To the casual listener, it was vague enough to fly under the radar. But to those following the breadcrumbs, those who'd been dissecting timelines, birth certificates, and belly bumps, it was received as a message. Not a confession, not a denial, a message. And that's where things get even murkier. Because Meghan and Harry's entire brand since leaving the monarchy has been built on selective vulnerability. They open the door just enough to show pain, conflict, and perseverance, but never wide enough to see the wiring behind the walls. Harry's memoir Spare describes Meghan's labor in vivid detail. He says she caught Lilibet herself, that the room was filled with emotion, that the birth was chaotic but beautiful. But then there's the fajitas, the hospital silence, the lack of any footage, nurse testimony, or behind-the-scenes photos that usually flood celeb births. So we're left in a strange space, not with lies, but with omissions, gaps, and the occasional poetic line meant to hold back a tidal wave of speculation. Some say it's privacy. Others say it's precision marketing. But whatever it is, it works. Meghan has managed to both confront the rumors and avoid fueling them, while still letting just enough smoke escape to keep people guessing. And maybe that's the point, because in today's age, truth isn't always about proof. It's about perception, narrative, the story that resonates loudest, not the one that's most accurate. But in this particular story, where royal bloodlines, modern motherhood, and digital speculation collide, maybe the most important question isn't what happened, but rather, why does it matter so much to us? And the conclusion? It might just be the real twist. So, was there a surrogate? We don't know. And unless Meghan or Harry decide to hand us a delivery room livestream and a notarized affidavit, we probably never will. At the end of the day, it's still just that, a rumor. One dressed in mystery, timing inconsistencies, and perfectly filtered Instagram lighting. But what this story really exposes isn't a secret birth. It's how fast we chase answers when the truth feels just out of reach. And how, sometimes, the silence around a rumor speaks louder than any denial ever could. Maybe Meghan carried Lilibet. Maybe she didn't. Maybe the real twist is that we've all become amateur detectives in a drama we were never invited to. But hey, if this was all scripted, someone deserves an Emmy. What do you think? Drop Drop your theories below. Just keep it classy. We're not Buckingham, but we do have standards.